What's up, everybody? Really appreciate you all that's tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be going over 105.3 The Fan interview with Jerry Wayne Jones. We got to talk about it. Let's listen in to 105.3 The Fan. Be sure to turn it on and leave it on. Let's listen.
That you are involved in, we talk a lot of Cowboys, but you are involved in all things NFL. I was hoping you can kind of walk us through the league or your mindset about adding that 17th game for next year and going forward. And then how do you feel about the potential rollback of some preseason games?
Well, I think I look at it holistically. We play 20 games a year before we get to the playoffs. 4 of those right now, the 2 home, 2 away, are preseason games, and then 16 of them are regular season games. We've agreed with the Players and Players Association that we would increase the 16 to 17 games. And that logically says, well, if you keep 20 games, for instance, and when you think about games, you think about the stadiums that they're involved in, you think about our fans, you think about certainly from the standpoint of what we gain by having preseason games. Our preseason games have parts of them that are criticized, but boy, is there a part of them that are very needed for us to have the kind of quality of play and the kind of interest in our game that we need.
Hold on. I started this without my coffee. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to try to bear with it. I'm going to try to get this thing all the way out. I believe that Jerry Jones is in the mindset of, hey, let's have these games. And whether it be preseason, whether it be regular season games, I still think that they charge the same amount of money to get into those games. So the revenue will still be there. So Jerry is saying basically, hey, if we can get an extra game, let it be. Let it be an extra game. Now, I do know that he said it's not about the money. Whenever people say that, it's about that. Let's listen to more what he had to say.
So that's a long way of setting the table. I think that I could see maybe having a preseason game every other year that you play one. That would make you 2 on the road and 1 at home to complement a 9-game regular season by increasing your season from the 16 games to the 17 games. So I know I'm not real clear there, but you really need a chart to look at it. But I'd see maybe a lessening to by a game every other year, and an increasing the regular season by a game.
And do you believe that I know it hasn't been approved, or you guys haven't agreed on everything just yet, but do you think that 17th game will be in place for the 2021 season?
I do.
Wow.
My personal opinion is that it will. Now, we did not agree on that the other day at our meeting, but we've agreed to do it, look at it and do it, and we've got it in our collective bargaining agreement that begins this year, our new one. And so it's something that we certainly have an agreement with the players to do. And prior to the last agreement that we had, that we're in the 10th year of it, then this was totally a club decision or a league decision.
So if you're a football player and you sign before this extra game, then you're missing out, basically. So that's why it was so important to hold back and just wait until this new collective bargaining agreement goes through, of course, and then all of the new rulings be implemented. More games is more money. More money is more cash. More cash is more everything. Now, you saw how quick Jerry said, I do, when they asked him, do you think that it will be a situation in a scenario that they will have more games next year? And he said, yes, I do. Yes, I do. That was very quick. So let's listen to more what they have to say. Man, that's crazy, Cowboy Nation. It is. It's flat out crazy.
Not a joint player league decision. But for those last 10 years, it's been a mutual decision with the league and the players, and now then we've agreed to carry it forward to 17, and that'll sure happen.
We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. I definitely know that. I'm curious if you can give us, last question on this, any more insight about why the league didn't come to that agreement just yet to for sure hammer home that 17th game for 2021.
Didn't need to. We've got several meetings ahead here in the off season, and it just wasn't something we had to address, and we wanted to, each one of us, think about it more and think about if there are any nuances that we could add to it. I'm talking about from a perspective of each individual owner. Boy, you'd be surprised. You get some really good ideas when you invite it as to from your perspective of 32 different teams. I'm a big believer that we're, as a league, we're in the 32 greatest markets in the country. We've got a uniform, most popular game, and we get great input from these individual clubs. And that's important, that we get it on this issue.
Well, Jerry, since you had this meeting, I was wondering this from a Cowboys perspective and then from an NFL perspective. Obviously, coronavirus has hurt all organizations. Do you guys have kind of a number on how much it's hurt the Dallas Cowboys and then how much it's hurt the NFL financially?
Well, I actually think that when the dust settles, that we are going to be standing tall in a very challenging and compromising year. We hope to have led all sport, but have led all individual entities within a sport. The Cowboys hope to have had the greatest attendance in the country. And hopefully we will do that with a good and we're going to have a great crowd Sunday. And then hopefully we'll have a great
Jerry. We got to love him. We got to love him, right? And I'm not trying to be a person that throwing out this thing of it's not about attendance. But I got to be this person to throw out the thing that it's not about attendance. It's about winning. Now, I do know that this year been crazy. But to even think about, well, at least we had the most people to attend. Woosa. My thing is, and on top of that, when we do attend at these games, will it be a difference maker? Will it be a situation whereas the crowd noise, right, was a factor in the game? Was it a situation whereas you can rely upon the attendance being so loud that it impact the game in a favorable way? One can argue this alone, that people plan their vacations around the Dallas Cowboys schedule, meaning that not to go away but to come to Dallas so that they can see their team play in this big old mega stadium. It's nice. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. But the craziest part of it all, now everybody is getting them a big mega stadium, right? But it's through the hands of the Joneses. Of course, we do know that they own some of the construction companies that build these mega stadiums. But what I'm trying to say is, that's kudos. That's good. That's money in your pockets. That's paper that you can look back on, and your kids' kids will be able to benefit and flourish from. But we as fans, we only care about the W. Now, over there in Seattle's land, they call it the 12th man as it relates to their people and their crowd noise. It's very important there. In Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City land, that stadium is built. And all of those stadiums, the Seattle Seahawks Stadium and, of course, the Arrowhead Stadium, is a major factor. The Mile High Stadium in Denver is a major stadium as it relates to crowd noise, the elevations of where the stadium is located at, of course, Mile High, what have you. Those stadiums are stadiums that have been built or the fan base been there to make impact. Far as the Cowboys, it's a whole different story, right?
Great crowd Christmas week against Philadelphia. And we've done that with literally no COVID. We don't have any. I have read where there potentially were 8, but we don't have anybody that has officially stepped out and said we got this coming to a ball game. And if you look around the country, these football games, particularly the ones that have the room and the open air about them, they have not been a conduit to spreading COVID at all. And so that's a great thing to point out. I don't want to do it until we're looking back at it, just because we've still got some real challenges ahead over the next couple of months. But it's really, to me, apparent that the open air, the air circulation, the things you get from an outdoor event, and you keep your proper distancing and you keep your mask and you just use common sense, that you can do that COVID-free. And to that end, I want that to be something that we point to as we look years ahead at how we handled and how we can handle any similar type incident in the future. But I'm really pleased today that as a league, the way we've approached it, we're constantly adjusting protocol, constantly adjusting how to do it, constantly adjusting the exposure between the staffs and the players. And by the way, just to give you the experience of the NFL, we are not getting any meaningful. Now, every case is meaningful.
Right.
But we're not getting any meaningful cases between players when they play on the field or when they're practicing.
Jerry, you are now a COVID analyst, and trust me, it's a weird situation to all digest. These guys are athletes. These guys are at the best of their shape, and we all know that COVID is one of those situations. Whereas when you look at it, it's been attacking those who had pre-existing complications, or people that's overweight and people that are older and things like that. Now, there are some young kids that are dying from it or what have you. Nevertheless, this topic of COVID will live forever because people continuing to push this thing about COVID. And I know the numbers are all crazy with it. Nevertheless, I just let them talk.
Our instance of touching our staff or players comes from mainly staff or from other associated exposure, such as people who prepare meals or people who do the cleaning and things like that. That's what's creating more of an exposure for players than that staffs.
Yeah. Jerry, interesting because, the vaccine is here. I know doctors, frontline workers are getting them right now as we speak, and I'm sure it's months away from more of the general public being able to get it. Will it be mandatory for everybody involved in the NFL to get the shot as soon as it is available to them? So come March and April, as you're preparing in the offseason workouts, the draft, that you can do everything back to normal because everybody has the vaccination in the NFL?
Your key word is mandatory, and we haven't done anything mandatory.
Right.
When you really get down to it, we didn't bubble. We didn't do those things, starting with the players. Now, we've done more succinct best practice with staff and within the organizations, and certainly within the stadiums. And we've done those things, and we've done what I would call a real good job. Not a pretty good job, but a real good job. But everybody's learning. Now, let me get real clear. I don't know the answers, and I'm not talking to anybody that have them.
Facts.
Period.
Facts,
anywhere.
Facts.
but I know we've evolved. I'm a different person regarding many of these issues than I was last March. There's nothing more convicted than somebody that has been an abuser and then gone ahead. I'm your strongest person you could meet about doing everything I can not to catch COVID. And I mean, I'm just type A when it comes to protecting and trying to protect those that need protection. That's a full circle. I was not quite as disciplined or mentally ready for it back in May, June, July. So I've come full circle. This is a tragedy that we've had in this country, and it's a tragedy at what is happening to our financial underpinning. And it's going to be the biggest success when, as a country, and that we come back and we have a COVID spike, which I sure hope we do, as opposed to long-term effects of all the economics, of all the tragedy that this has incurred. We all see every day the death, but boy, what we just know is there is this unbelievable price that we have paid with our workforce and with our lives of people. This country, if you take a person 12 or 13 years old today and project them into the workforce over the next 40, 50 years, and you take people about 60 today and project them another 12 years, we've added about 5 years worth of work for everybody on this planet to make up for this COVID.
There's been a lot of...
Well, I feel what you're saying, Jerry, but when we look at the complete picture of the way the NBA did it opposed to the NFL, I think the NBA did a better deal of it. Now, I do know that we were faced against worse situation because the NFL got over 60 people. I think it's over 70 people on a roster completely if you add in the fact of the practice squad and as well as the coaching. So, and I know that you guys revamped, told the cheerleaders, hey, we don't need cheerleading for this year. I'm talking about across the board. And yes, a lot of people lost their lives and a lot of people lost loved ones. And a lot of people still fighting from and through this. Now, although the numbers may not be a direct, reflection of the NFL as far as the amount of people that was interacting with someone who had COVID from the NFL, because you just never know. Sometimes you can be asymptomatic and you can be with someone and they pass it on to someone else. You healthy. Your household is healthy. But the lady that comes to clean the house is not. And she passed it on. So it's crazy. So that's why I look at it like, man, this will forever be in the history. It changes everything on how we interact with people, how do we engage in conversations, or how we interact while we're in public, who can come over your house and who can't. And this is crazy. It's crazy. I really have no words to put it. Nevertheless, let's listen to more of 105.3 The Fan. They're doing a wonderful job, as well as Jerry Wayne Jones. Listen to more what he had to say.
Talk and, former presidents have come out and said they would do it and everything like that. I'm curious. It's not mandatory like you just said. You personally, would you want to go ahead and get the COVID vaccine?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm down the line, but of course I would. And want the deserved and the vulnerable to get it, and the ones that are obviously the neediest and the ones that we rely on the most to get it. We all want that. But at a point in time, or to make the point that I believe so much the vaccine is the way out, I'm a big proponent of doing it yesterday.
I'm curious as far as Sunday's game goes against the 49ers. I know there's still a couple of days, but do you anticipate Zeke being able to roll out there on Sunday?
Absolutely.
Thank God they're going back to football because, Jerry Jones taking the COVID shot or vaccination shot for the nation. That there's rulings and news out there that you got to take multiple shots, more than one. The side effects are unknown at this point because normally it takes 2 to 3 years before you can develop a true, vaccine and knowing what the side effects can be or could be and how all of this stuff can work out. And Jerry, like he said, he's been up there. He's long in the tooth. That tooth ain't short. That tooth is long. And, it's a crazy moment. All I can say is, and this is not no PSA, all I can say is for people that's watching this video, just make sure you take care of yourself. Eat healthy, work out, do all what you can, drink your fluids, your waters, what have you. And let's listen to more what they got to say. I think they're going to go into talking about Ezekiel, the main man, Elliott.
Absolutely. And now that's Jerry Jones saying it, and that's not my ankle and my hamstring and my knee, so it's easier for me to say. But in terms of my understanding of where he is, in terms of knowing Zeke, which is huge. Now, it's hard to keep that guy down from the standpoint of something physical. And, boy, he understands. He wrote the book on how to play with pain and how to be compromised physically to play. So I expect him to play.
That's the only thing that I would say about Ezekiel Elliott. I've seen some people make comments and say, well, it's because of the money, is the reason why he's having a horrible year and he's not playing up to par. And, of course, the offensive line. One thing that I can say, too, is he's out there. He's playing through injury. He's battling through injuries, meaning that it's not about the money because he already got paid and he got guaranteed money, right? The other thing that I would say is that we found out that it's not about Ezekiel Elliott. It's more so about the offensive line, if that can make any sense to you all. That offensive line is more important than the running back situation, right? If not, then you really don't need one or the other. Which one is it? Is it the chicken before the egg, or is it the egg before the chicken? Because at this point, the offensive line, you can look at it and say, well, if it's not an elite offensive line, then you can't get elite running back scenarios and situations. If that's the case in the scenario, post me your thoughts down below about the offensive line. Because all I know is Connor Williams, he was drafted as what? He was a high pick, second or third round, something like that. I forgot which round. Zach Martin, he been here for majority of the year. What round was he drafted in, right? And then on top of that, you had Tyler Biotis, who was drafted pretty much in the third or fourth. They traded up in the fourth. And if it wasn't for like crazy injuries, he would have went in the second round or what have you. Third round, I heard. They had a high grade on him, but he was injured during college or what have you. So offensive line, how much do they play a role in it? Well, according to the Dallas Cowboys, the offensive line plays everything into it. But let's listen to more what they have to say.
So, Jerry, this isn't about getting flex to noon. We talked about that last week, but there was a quote yesterday from Jalen Smith about just getting flexed out, and he said, if the owner ain't tripping, we good. And what I was wondering about that quote is, when was the last time that you got mad at this team and showed your frustration with how they've been playing?
Well, candidly, the problem I have is when I get mad at the team, I'm mad at myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a problem. That's just a fact. And so that I can't be critical of our team without being critical of myself. Now, that's not a problem. But I would like for everybody to know that that is a fact. And I know exactly why we didn't catch the ball. And I know where where the initial decisions are made to get the ball caught. And it's a nice little chain of events that have to happen. But when we're going across CD's 88's going across that end zone, there's been a lot of stuff go on, decisions made, bad and good, for him to catch that pass. and that's the way we're structured. Well, how we're structured with the Cowboys is really very succinct. And it goes from me to the coach, to the coaches, and right on to the player. Now, there are a lot of people in between that are making big impact in the decision and the condition of how the player is getting there. But we've got one of the most straight lines from who's writing the check to what's happening on the field there is in sport.
The last thing I've got for you today, Jerry, is I know it's still mathematically possible. It'd be really, really difficult to make the playoffs. Speaking.
Hey, before they talk about that, let me say this right quick. Jerry Jones, he said he can't be mad at nobody but himself. Now, my thing is with this whole entire, interview, it's just I feel what he's saying. Nevertheless, when you think about it, if you the person that can only get mad at yourself about the decisions that you're making, and you don't showcase I guess his intolerance for ambiguity is very high. But if he's the person that supposed to be the one that everybody stands up and say, okay, here is Jerry Jones, and he never shows those emotions. If he never shows that, hey, if I mess up, I can get fired, then the people will have that lackadaisy mentality. Even when you think about Tony Dungy, yes, he was a quiet demeanor guy, but he coached and delivered with a level of authority. Now, Jerry Jones, I think that he's more of a friendly guy as it relates to the players. They can always come to him for advice, counsel, play, also money, and a whole bunch of business ideas. They can always come back to Jerry. And he's going to be like, come to me. I got open arms, an open door policy, which is good. I'm not saying that there's flawed or flaws into that. But when you have a general manager, Jerry Jones, the owner, need to think about the general manager's responsibility. I challenge you all that work in retail to have a general manager that's lackadaisy. Have a general manager that walks in and don't care about your P&L report, don't care about the shrink report, don't care about whether or not you're not outperforming another store, right? Or don't have incentives for this or that. And when that general manager walks in, and if that particular he or she does not embodies or empowers or I guess showcase that they have the authoritative of presence, what have you, then the whole entire staff from the general manager down, like the manager, the supervisor, the store employees, they be like, well, hell, damn if I do, damn if I don't. I don't really care that much because the general manager is not walking around here with the fire and brimstone. Now, you do have some general managers that's lackadaisy, that's laid back, chill, But the stores that compete, the stores that really performing, you have that general manager that's really pumping things out, saying that, okay, we got to be better than this. My job is to replace you if you're not. You got to have that mindset. And I'm not saying that the Cowboys don't have it, but from the outside looking in, 9 times out of 10, I'm more so on the side whereas the Cowboys really have this general manager just fluff. The general manager just going to give you an extra rope, extra lean way. Let me know if I'm lying. Let me know if you guys feel that, nah, Law. Jerry Jones going in there, and after a loss, and of course, I know this year is crazy. You really can't count it all the way because of the crazy things that went on. But I'm talking about from this part all the way back. He's not that guy that's going to go in here and say, okay, miss that kick again. Drop that ball several times again, wide open, right? Or have the ability to empower the coaches to make that type of stance. I recall, you guys remember the movie Remember the Titans? And the brother who was coaching the team, they said, hey, Denzel Washington, that was his, I don't know his name was on the movie, I forgot his name. but he could not lose a game. They said the moment you lose a game, you're out. Same philosophy of another movie, Coach Carter. You guys remember this movie? These movies based off of real experiences too. These real life movies. Coach Carter was something similar. They didn't care about, the grades of the students or what have you. They just wanted to see the basketball game going. But the coach had to step up and say, if they can't get these books and these grades together, then they can't play. But they started to do well that year, and they forgot about the getting the books together. They forgot about the contract that was signed. And when he said, "Hey, I held you guys to a standard, and you guys were not able to do it, so I will put the chains on the gym. You couldn't go in to play basketball." But that was the coach's decision, right? But the general manager of that particular area was the pretty much the principal. And they wanted him to go back out there to have those players to be on the court. Then the coach of that particular team said, "You know what? I quit. Because if they don't get this in life, then they won't be good in life." Let that sink in. Let me listen to the rest of this thing.
You get the opportunity to speak directly to the fan base right here on 105.3 The Fan. Why would you encourage them to watch the Cowboys over this last 3 weeks?
I like to be a little colorful and say our ball is oblong, which means when it hits the ground, you don't know which way it's going.
Facts.
The game is designed to have a lot of, if you overuse my favorite term, a lot of ambiguity. And there's so much that can go on when you run a play or in a series, and so much that can happen for the outcome of a game. And I certainly can dream of sugar plums if we could win these last 3 ball games. Now, there's got a lot of other things, and I don't even need to get into that about explaining it. But we went out, and I will say this: I sure should be allowed to see an Andy Dalton hitting on all cylinders, as I think he's very capable of. Zeke, our offensive line, playing like they did against Baltimore, and they played real good against Baltimore. I could see that happening. I could see a defense that gets in the groove. Better to say that. I can see all of that. And I just have to think that way, and I do think that way. And I think that way about not just football, but I think that way about what gets the football down the field.
Look, we all got high hopes, baby. And I'm one of the people that look at this particular team and say, yes, we should try to fight to win every game. But, baby, when I tell you guys about Andy Dalton, he can, like Jerry Jones, can have all of the love and adulations, and he can be like, wow, this Andy Dalton is the guy for the Dallas Cowboys. You can have all of those hopes and glories, right? But the reality, when it hits you in the face, it will tell you that Andy Dalton, he's not that guy. He's struggling. Now, like he said, the last 3 games, if on all cylinders, Andy Dalton is one of those guys that can light it up like a Roman candle, it would be nice. But from what I've seen until now, even last game, I just don't see Andy doing those things. I could be 1,000,000% wrong, and I hope that I am. But I just want to tell you guys that that's a slim, slim chance. And there goes to show you again of the general manager saying that the store is going to all of a sudden produce grand slamming numbers. All of a sudden the stores are going to operate just because, and I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm not. I'm very, very, very objective with my thoughts. But on this one right here, I gotta lean more towards the historic data. which Andy Dalton, just like Michael Irvin said, he may be one of the best backup quarterbacks in the National Football League. But while he was playing, he was one of the worst starting quarterbacks. And right now, he's the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys offense. Jerry boy. I love it, though. Optimism is high.
Thank you very much for joining us yet again. We look forward to talking with you every single week, and best of luck on Sunday.
You bet, guys. You bet. Let's have a big weekend. It's a big one out at that stadium. We got that Big 12, and man, here we come in behind against entertaining the San Francisco 49ers. Let's go. It's good to be alive.
Looking forward to that right there.
With TXU Energy.
Yeah, Joker said it's good to be alive, baby. Yes. So, it's crazy, Cowboy Nation. When we look at everything and we see what Jerry is saying, yes, we want to go out there and give the 49ers our best. We want to say to the 49ers, because I really can't stand them, right? We want to say to them, hey, you guys might have a little bit better record than us right now. But right now, you finna get the full power of the Dallas Cowboys, right? We want to see that. And we want to see some of the guys that we didn't really get a chance to grab hold on to this year, like the Reggie Robinson. We want to see what he can do. Shout out to Donovan Wilson. They said that he was a full participant. Even Anthony Brown, they said that his rib situation is okay right now, So he was a full participant of practice. So maybe, just maybe, the reinforcement may be here. It may be here. Outside of all of the conversation, outside of the conversation of the COVID, I kind of like this interview, but the realism got to step in and hit Jerry in the face and say, hey, man, pump the brakes a little bit on this. But nevertheless, Cowboy Nation, let me know of your thoughts. Let me know of your opinions. Let me know how you guys get down with this. It's a crazy year altogether, collectively speaking. But we got 3 more games, and we'll see how we're going to end from here. And at least next year we will have more games, according to Jerry, right? And at least next year they should have something mapped out and planned out for OTAs and training camps. And maybe they probably not go to Oxnard if that's the case, because so much traveling. And if they don't have this thing all anchored in as it relates to the pandemic or what have you, then they may have it all here. But we'll find out. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Salute.